What we're going to do in this exercise is go through and create a few screenshots from a example app which I've designed. If you want to see the design process for this, there's links in the description below, and it goes through from basic concept right through to initial sketches. But for today we're going to work on the main item. So we're just going to work on the loading screen using some simple effects and placing of images, and then the landing page. In part 2 of the video we'll go into doing a few more advanced screenshots, but for now we're going to stick with just the loading screen, landing page. So let's get started with a new document. So in InDesign, go to File, New, Document. Now we've got quite a few options here we can play with, but firstly we're going to start with the intent. So we're going to choose mobile. So we've already started to default everything to a mobile interface. So the page size, we're going to go for iPhone 6, because we haven't got iPhone 7 on Creative Cloud yet, but that's going to give us the right dimensions of the screen for iPhone 6. I'm going to break down my number of columns to 2, because that works very well with the screen size. You don't want to have too many columns, because then everything gets a bit too squashed. And the gutter, I'm going to set to a universal 20. Now, you can go for larger, but you don't want to go any less than 20 with the margins or the gutter between the columns. So we now set this up and we are all ready to go. Number of pages doesn't matter too much, but I'm going to start with 2. It doesn't matter too much because you can always add or remove them later on. So click OK, and here we are with our blank pages. Open up my page window on the side, and by the way, if I mention any windows which you can't find in InDesign, you can go to Windows and then open them from here. So you see Pages is right there. There we go. Alternatively, you can also go to Workspace, choose maybe Essentials, and then Reset. So if someone's got there before you and deleted things, it puts it right back in the right place. But everything's there. So anyway, we're on Pages, and you can see that we've got 2 masters, one called None, one called A Master. So we're going to start with doing the loading page, which is a unique page. You only ever use one like it in the entire app, so I don't need to make a master to kind of replicate for later on. So what I'm going to do is just take the None box and drag that over the first one, meaning that there's no style applied to this first page at all. It's completely blank. So let's get started with actually filling things in. Starting with, I'm going to put a bit of placement. So zoom out so I can see the whole space, which is Control minus or Command minus, depending which platform you're on. Command minus being Mac. And I'm going to put my rectangle, so rectangle frame tool. And I'm just going to draw a box over the entire page. So we get a rectangle with a cross through it appear. Now we can do this a couple of ways of putting images in, but I'm going to do it a simple way. So File and Place. So I'm going to navigate to a folder I've got here, which is App Design Exercise and Images, and I'm going to choose HQ Wood Texture. Okay, and you see that my cursor has now got the image attached to it, so I can place it wherever I like. If I just click inside the text frame box, it puts it inside there. Now, that will put out the resolution it's come out with, so it might fill the box, might not. You can also draw a box to open it that way, but this is one way which works fine for me. To get it to fill the whole space, I just hover over, and there's a central circle appears. I hover over the circle and click once. You'll see that the blue rectangle, which was selected before, now turns to a brown rectangle around the item. This is absolutely fine. I then hold down Shift, hover over the corner, and drag the shape out. It's very, very, very important that you hold down Shift, because if you don't hold down Shift, it completely distorts and warps it into weird ways. That's fine, I'm happy with this, so I'm now going to click outside, and it's been deselected. So we now have a wood texture there. Now, this wood texture looks a bit grainy, doesn't look very good quality, and there's 2 reasons that can be. Firstly, InDesign defaults to a low resolution. So if I go to View, Display Performance, so typical, as you see there, is low resolution. If I do this again, display performance, high quality, it gets better but it's still grainy. The reason for this is the actual wood texture image is not very high quality. So it's very important that you make sure you get high quality images to go into your designs. Otherwise they won't look great when they come out. But also check that you have the high quality mode set on. If you making a magazine in InDesign, you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of photos and content. This would slow your computer down and probably cause it to crash. So InDesign has display performance. So if you say fast, we just see a placeholder. That's going to be great for viewing the entire magazine. But when you want to see one particular page, you can go into the typical or high. It's just a way of managing your memory. So we're not going to do very much today, so we can leave it on high and get better quality as we go along. Anyhow, as this is a brown wood, I want to make it into a dark wood because that's the style I want for this. So what I'm going to do is go over to my left and choose the rectangle tool. And again, I'm drawing out a rectangle the whole size of my sheet. Currently it's see-through. I go to the top here, and the border I'm going to select none, but the fill swatch I'm going to select black. Now, right, I've covered the whole thing with black. That's not particularly good, so I need to go and add an effect. So selecting this, go to Windows, Effects, and this little menu pops up. As you can see, this is very similar to the ones we see in Photoshop, so I'm going to treat it just the same as I do with blends in Photoshop by dropping down here and choosing color. Maybe I can take the opacity down so I've got a bit of brown in there, but I can do different options here. So I can take patterns, I can apply a pattern, I can do different, I can do hue, I can do lots of things. So if you want to be very creative, you can experiment with different layers and textures and colors and fades, but for today, this is all we need. Alternatively, you can make these graphics in Photoshop and just import the finished one. This just gives you a little bit more flexibility as an option. So let's put our junk logo on. So once again, File, Place, and we can go to Branding. And we've got a logo here called Junk Logo. Click Open, and for this exercise, the size doesn't matter too much, but I'm going to go right from this left margin over to the right margin. So I know I'm very large, but within that 20 pixel buffer on the side of the screen. I'm going to move this down slightly, so that looks good to me. So I want to do a bit more with this logo though. It's a bit two-dimensional, doesn't really sort of say much to me. I want to add an effect. So just like we did with the rectangle before, hover over our logo, click once, and go to Windows, Effects. It brings our panel up here. I'm going to do something different than I did last time. I'm not going to blend it in. I'm going to add an object effect, which is this FX button down the bottom right. Clicking on that, I have quite a few different options. I want to choose bevel and emboss. So you can see it's just changed the bottom there. I'm going to choose down, so it's going into the screen, because I think that gives quite a nice effect with the wood. It feels very sort of American frontier, old time, mountain man kind of feel. The rust works really well as well. Okay, so we've got those together, and the final element I want to bring in is the logo. So just like other items, File, Place, choose our School of Junk logo, Open, and I just hover about there and drag it out. That's going to be about right size for me. I can see that this item is not completely centered because the center of the logo is not the center of the image. That's quite common, so I'm just going to do it by eye, zooming in here and just dragging it to about there. That's going to do completely fine for what I want. And is it too high? Maybe move it down a smidgen. Anyhow, that's the start of my loading screen. I could add more effects, I could do more detail, but this is going to get me where I want to be. And importantly, we've got different elements on the page. So we've got the logo, we've got the title, junk, and we've got the background with the fade. So when I want to do animations and interactions later on, I can do things. So maybe in the load screen, the logo drops down or moves or anything we like. So rather than just having static images being in Photoshop, we are putting ourselves up later on for flexibility, for change, and for interactivity. Anyway, that's our loading page, the app done, and I'm very happy with that. Let's move on to our next page. So if we look at our other example, which you see here, this title bar at the top is common to more than one page. So there you see it again. So we have options. We could go into our InDesign and we can make it at the top of the page, and we can just copy and paste it every single time, and that will work. That's a complete pain, and if we're doing hundreds of screens, as you would do if you're developing a real app, you don't want to keep copying and pasting items totally all the time. So there's a cheat, and what it is using the slide masters, slide styles. So up here, I'm going to double click on my A master, and you can see it's been selected. So anything we do here will apply to every other sheet with A. So to give you an example, if I put some more text here saying hello, that's far too small. Let's give it some size, make it 80. Right, that's just a bit of text. And I click on my page here. You see that page 1 has nothing applied, so it's just how it is. Page 2 has an A on it, which means that A master has been applied. So we see hello. If I create a new page, I'll create 2 new pages. These 2 pages here, they don't have anything applied because there's no letter. But as soon as I take my master and drag it onto here, you'll see that hello applies. Go to number 3, take A, drag it onto the page, and we see it happening again. And likewise, if I go to my master, double click there again, and select hello, delete it, go back to our pages, it's also been deleted there. So these are universal styles that apply all the way throughout. Very, very useful. So here I am in my A master, it's been selected. I'm going to go and put my title in. But first we have to create it. So I'm going to jump onto Adobe Illustrator. Now, I have already got together in the DMFR folder a whole series of graphical user interface GUI items, and I'll be putting a link to them in the bottom of this video as well, so you can go and download them from the source or from our student drives. But I've taken a few key elements and I put it onto a simple sheet here just to make the example much more fluid and easier to follow. So here we are, all these are icons and screen bits. Now the part I'm interested in is this part here. Zoom in a bit further, and this is a title bar template. So we're going to take this and turn this into what we want for our app. So the first thing, with our selection tool selected, just drag a box out over the title bar and release. So everything in there has been selected. I then hold down the Alt key and drag this up. So holding down the Alt copies it. I don't want to edit the original thing because maybe I want to do something later on, so always make a copy. These 2 circles here are telling me that in iOS 10 we can put items there which are going to be buttons. So the buttons I want are the shopping basket, which I'm going to take there, hold down Alt, drag to the side, and if I take this one, search tool, hold down Alt, drag to the side. I'm going to zoom in a bit further to make this really clear. Hold down space, drag around. So let's select my shopping basket and just drag it into there. Now you see that the 2 centers have a line, they snap to the point. So we know that that's nicely aligned. Let's do the same for the search icon. Hover over, select it, and find the center. There we are. It's pretty much the intersect. So these are now in the right place. We can select our circles and delete them. So that's nice and easy. But we're missing an item here, which is our menu button. It's going to go, whoops, going to go just there. So scroll down here, actually we'll zoom out, and we see we've got a menu button just there, 3 lines, came in with iOS 7 a few years ago. Hold down Alt, drag, and move to the top here. If I zoom in again, hold on space, move around. I can select my chevron, select my back button, delete them, select my menu button, bring it in, just drag, and you see that as I move it starts aligning the options. So I'm going to say about there is perfect. For this example we can be a bit rough, it doesn't matter too much. Select the title and delete because we do not want or need that there. The last thing we're missing is the title information on the phone, telling us about phone signal and so forth. If we zoom down, we've got it right here. So drawing a marquee over all of this, Alt, copy, move up here, and I'm going to place it just there. So we've now created our title bar. We need to get this out of Illustrator. So go to my artboard tool here on the side, select that, and just draw a box around our title bar. So we've got a nice space associated. Now to see what these are, go to Windows, Artboards, pops up from here. It's called Artboard 10 because the 10th one I created in this program. If I just double click that on this text, I can rename it Title Bar. So that helps me know what it is. In this case, we've only got 3 artboards, so it's very easy to keep track of what things are. But we might have maybe 100 if we're really going for it, making small changes on each one. In that case, we want to definitely name our title bars so that we know what they are. It's just good practice. So minimize that, and let's just draw a box over the outside again, so that's all selected. And I can go to File, Export Selection. So in this window, which we see here, we can try and export assets, which will give us a flat page with too much space outside, or we can do the correct version, which is go to the artboards. And we see here the individual items which we've artboarded are selected. So I've just deselected the ones that I like and leaving title bar selected. The scale I want to have 3 times to make sure it looks nice and crisp on my prototype. If you have 1 times, it might not necessarily be the right scale. So if you go for larger, that's always good. File type PNG, I'm very happy with that. And lastly, export to a location. So I'm going to choose my desktop because that's a nice and easy place, and click choose. So that's all set up. I'm now going to export my artboard. And you get a pop-up coming here saying that I've got my title bar just appeared there. So I'm going to get out of Illustrator and going back into InDesign. So here I am back on my A master. Remember that we double clicked there so it's selected. I need to place my title bar at the top. So once again, File, Place. And rather than going into my branding items, I'm going to go to my desktop and choose title bar. And just like before, it's attached to my mouse. So I go to the top left of my page, click and drag until it reaches the other side, and release. So I've now got my title bar just there. Just proof point. I'm going to go to my page here, that's my loading page, scroll down. My A pages now have the title bar attached. But there's something missing still. I need to have the junk icon. So back into my A master, File, Place, and let's go back to my branding. Now I've got to actually go through my lectures now because you know, I didn't put a hot link. So 16, 17, lecture slides, week 3 wireframing, abstract exercise, images, branding, and the junk logo. Right, we're in business. So click open, and again, just draw our box out. It's about there, drag it along, you see it snaps to the center. So that is completely fine. I'm very happy with that as it is. So I can go onto here, and I can start editing a page. But before I do that, I'm going to do one more thing, which is go back to my A master, right click, and say master options for A master. This lets me rename it. So I'm going to call this title bar, which is what the whole master is about. And you can create lots of different masters. So your search bar could be store finder, could be styles, different kinds of pages. If you're making a magazine, you might have a style for each editorial type, like readers' letters or readers' emails. We could have our agony art column, we could have our new and style column. So each page could have a new style to apply to it, making your life so much easier and simpler. And of course, if you want to make a change to the style of the magazine or the app, making a change to the master will go everywhere. It just saves you loads of time. So here we are. I've double clicked to my page 2. I'm going to put some images in. So to do this, once again, we could do File, Place and start drawing the images, but we want to be more precise. So click my rectangle frame and just draw one frame which looks about the right size. This is rough prototype. This is not final art designs at this point. So we take this, and it's selected, hold down the Alt key and just drag it down. So we're creating 2 boxes of about the same size. Also, the box is the same size. The placement, it works for now. Remember, in roughness it's fine because you don't want to spend loads of time being really precise before you got to your final design. So let's put some pictures in. So once again, File, Place, and I'm going to choose, go to Images, go to Shop, Clothing, and I'm going to choose this tartan place suit, click Open, and it's attached to my mouse, just click into the box. Let's choose something else. I click outside the box so it's deselected, and I'll show you a different way to insert images, which is very similar. If I select this text frame, this rectangle frame, then I go File, Place. Let's choose something different. Let's choose some jewelry. Let's go for bracelet. Let's go for this colourful bracelet. Click Open. The image has just popped straight into there because we've already told it where I want to put it. Now, before I said deselect the image by clicking out there after we place the first one in. The reason is if we then placed whilst the first box is selected, the second image will just go straight over the top of the first one and we'd have to undo and redo it again. So there we are. We now have the images in there. We need to fill the images into the whole space, and we do this exactly like we did it on the first page with the wood. So hover over the image until you see the white circle, click on the circle, the edge of the image goes brown, hold down Shift and drag it out. We can go right to there. Now our image currently, after the drag, is not centered, so I'd hover over the central circle again, and you'll see that we've got the brown outline. Move away and just drag it down. You'll see the hand tools there, meaning we can drag. So we've got her face, so that looks quite nice, and I will leave it like that. I've mentioned a few times you must hold down the Shift button, and the reason for this is you do not want to distort the image. To show you an example of that, on the second one, I'm hovering over the circle, clicking there, and if I just do it freehand, I can make this look absolutely terrible, and I do not want that. I'm going to undo that by pressing Command Z twice, or Control Z if you're on a PC, and just resize this again. Hold down Shift, expand it, and there we are. Just drag it into the right place. I'm quite happy with that. The last thing I want to do on this page is add some text. Let everyone know what is in these categories. So choose the text tool from the side, or type tool, and draw out a button just below the image going between the two margins. The reason why we have such a large area rather than a small one is that we want to center it in a few minutes, but we'll do it in a second. So I'm going to type in all capitals, clothes. You can just about see that, it's too small, so I'm going to select this and go for size 60, which is quite a nice size. It's not too large, but it's quite good to see. Three things wrong with this. Firstly, the font is terrible. Secondly, it's not aligned. And thirdly, black is boring. So I'm going to select my text and just go for the center align. It's just a button at the top there, and it just brings it right into the middle, makes it nice and easy to work with. Second part is the font. Now, if you are using designing for iOS, you need a font called San Francisco. There's a link where to download it for free at the bottom of this video. But I'm going to, so I can choose that. It's SF UI, say UI display bold, and that works perfectly. That's exactly in the iOS 10 style. But if I haven't got that, I can replace it with Arial, which is the one we use all the time, Arial bold. I click that, you see it does change. It's not a massive change, and you might not even notice it, but it's definitely there. So I've now made my text. I've enlarged it, I've centered it, I've added a appropriate font. You know what, I'm going to change it back to San Francisco because I actually quite like that font. So display bold, that's quite a nice font. The color is wrong, I want to have pink. Now, I've previously made a color scheme using designs from my mood board. If you look at part 1 of the design videos linked below, then you'll see more about this. So I'm just going to load this into my colors. So if I look at swatches, I open that up. You can see I've got lots of colors there, but they're not the ones I want. Just to make life easy, I'm going to select the bottom one, hold down Shift, go right up to black, and right up to cyan, and click delete. Just getting rid of those. Now I'm going to load my swatches. So there's a menu icon top right, click on that and select load swatches. I can then go right up to my app design exercise, and there's a file called junkshop ASE, and that is my swatches. So you click open, and lo and behold, they are now in my theme, and that's great. So if I want to just change the text, just select my text there, double click and then drag over. I can then just click on the color here in my swatches, and there it is. If I want to have maybe a few bits blue, I can change cloth heads, a bit weird, set the whole thing, and just choose pink. So that is now nicely coloured, it's good font, and it's in the right centre and right size. To get it for blue, just hold Alt, drag it down, and we'll see that it starts to snap to the right area and release. Double click there, drag over, jewelry, and we are now done. So the last thing that's left, I want to remove the last page, so I'm going to select these two, so click on one, hold down shift, click on the second, and then the trash bin icon, and there we are. To view them, I can just, to make sure this shows right, because my Mac's being a bit weird, if I right click on this button down there, I can choose from normal to preview. When you do preview, it shows you what the final print is. It gets rid of all the margins, all the lines, and I can now see my app. And that looks pretty good for what we're doing in this exercise. So I hope you've enjoyed this. This is the content that was covered in week 3 of the Digital Branding Workshop. I'm going to make a second video after this one and go into further designing and wireframing using almost identical skills. So these are all the key skills you need to do prototyping. I recommend you watch the second one to see further examples of how you can apply this in your coursework and course practice.